This theme is dragons and Jedi. So we're kicking it off with Mark, and Mark is talking about fairy tales and fairy tale magic. So I think that's going to be pretty fun.
hmm
But we've had you on the channel before, Mark, to talk about your books,
hmm
and you've got a whole slew of them. So for today, we're talking about fairy tales are not fantasy; they use magic in different ways. I think that's going to be pretty fun conversation. So again, hello friends, I am Dominic, founder of Legend Fiction and host of Legend Haven, joined by Mark Baker. What's the name of your latest series that you're working on, or the latest book you're working
The
on, Mark?
latest book, I don't know whether it's going to be a series or not yet. Things turn into series. I don't plan them that way.
Sure.
But this is The Withered King. You can see it's got an
I was going to
Amazon
say, how did
stripe
you get a
across it.
copy so fast? Okay, there you go. It's a proof copy.
It is a proof copy and it launches May 31st. So
Nice.
it's available for pre-order, the ebook on Amazon. Otherwise, if you want to get your hands on paperback, then you'll have to
How
wait till
exciting.
the
Can you give us the
31st.
blurb? What's the blurb?
The blurb. I'll read the blurb from the book. When Colin Cameron's dying father entrusted him with the protection of his baby sister, Effie, neither anticipated that Colin and Effie would one day stumble through a portal into the kingdom of the Green King. There, the king's winsome daughter's first words to Colin are a proposal of marriage, and the entire kingdom mistakes Effie for their long-promised savior, the spotless maiden. The ancient scrolls say that only the spotless maiden can pierce the heart of their great enemy, the Withered King. But Colin is not about to let his little sister fight a demon king, but not everyone in the Green King's kingdom is willing to take no for an answer. And saying no to the Green King's daughter's proposal is not as easy as it seems.
Okay, that sounds fun. How long have you been working on that novel? Because you're routinely writing, aren't you?
Well, fairly routinely. It seems to come in spits and spurts. Like I brought two books out the beginning of last year, almost one on top of the other, though that was largely because I decided to send one of them off to agents, and the other one was part of my historical fiction series, so that was already published by me. So you can't suddenly turn around and sell the fourth book. So they more or less came out together, and then this has been worked on over this year. Uh, I have no idea. I've looked at my the schedule of all the ones I put out. I can't see a pattern to it. They bunch and
Well,
then they spread.
let's talk about let's talk about fairy tales and fantasy and magic. You have a bone to pick, I think, and it's routinely I personally enjoy following you on Substack, where you have these little, well, bones to pick or deep dives on specific talking points, and they're routinely refreshing. So let's get into this one.
Yep. Okay. So, as you may know, J.R. Tolkien wrote a wonderful essay called On Fairy Stories. This was long before Lord of the Rings came out, and therefore long before there was a genre known as fantasy, right? It didn't exist at that point. And if you look at the history of fantasy, what people will do is they'll go back past Tolkien and they'll just bring in the fairy tales as if they were precursors, as if mythology was a precursor of fantasy. Of course, fantasy borrows from these things, but it's in fact quite different. Something happened. It sort of starts to happen in Lord of the Rings in a way, though I would argue with Tolkien that Lord of the Rings is a fairy tale. And the difference is that in fantasy, magic is a power to be used. I was actually thinking this in terms of the morning theme, which was magic and monsters. It's like
Hmm.
fantasy is magical men fight monsters.
Okay,
And the fairy tale is ordinary men fight magical monsters.
that's so cool. That's great.
And
Okay, keep going.
yeah, there's actually quote. Sorry, I'm just scrolling in my other window here. Chesterton in Orthodoxy, he writes: "The old fairy tale makes the hero a normal human boy. It is his adventure that are startling. They startle him because he is normal. But in the modern psychological novel, the hero is abnormal. The center is not central. Hence, the fiercest adventures fail to affect him adequately, and the book is monotonous. You can make a story out of a hero among dragons, but not out of a dragon among dragons. The fairy tale discusses what a sane man will do in a mad world. The sober realistic novel of today discusses the essential lunatic will do in a dull world." Now, of course, fantasy doesn't exist as a category
Mm,
for Chesterton either, any more than it did for Tolkien. But I think in that there's this idea, I think, that what fantasy has become, that it is the story of a dragon among dragons, right?
yeah,
Harry
interesting.
Potter is wizard versus wizard. And
Mm,
what is Harry doing? He is going to school to learn to be a better wizard. It
mhm,
really takes from science fiction in that the focus is competence. Gain
mm,
competence, use power.
mhm,
Whereas if you look at Lord of the Rings, Frodo does not gain power. Has no more power at the end than he does at the beginning. In fact, he stumbles at the end, right? It isn't Frodo's action that destroys the ring. And all the powerful people, all the wise people, all through the book, every time offers them the ring, they turn him down because they know they cannot master this power. This power will master them. And so they refuse it. Only the most humble, the only person who ever voluntarily gives back the ring is the humblest character in the entire story. That's Sam, right? There is that moment in Mount Doom where he has become the ring bearer very briefly. And when Frodo demands it back, he gives it back. No other character can give it back, only Sam. He's the only one
yeah,
who's not powerful enough, but humble enough. And then, of course, it is Frodo's earlier charity towards Gollum that brings about the actual happy resolution. It's what Tolkien called the eucatastrophe, the happy catastrophe, and that's merited by an act of virtue.
mhm.
So fairy tales hinge on virtue, and fantasy, like science fiction, hinges on competence.
Mastery.
Mastery, exactly. It's mastery, it's competence. There is this line in On Fairy Stories where he's talking about fairy is being defined by prohibitions, by laws. Fairy tales are very much about living under the law. And he says, there is in fact no wedding between a princess and a frog. The frog was an enchanted prince. The point of the story lies not in thinking frogs possible mates, which is kind of the fantasy thing, right? In a fantasy, you might really want to marry a frog. Let's have a whole story about being married to a frog. That would be a fantasy trope, but a fairy tale trope is not about thinking frogs possible mates because they are in fact enchanted princes. It is the necessity of keeping promises, even those with intolerable consequences, that together with observing prohibitions runs through all fairyland. This is what fairyland is. Fairyland is this land of moral absolutes, and the magic in fairy tales is chaotic. It robs you of capability. It doesn't grant you capability. If you look at
Mm,
Tolkien's favorite was Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, where the Green Knight comes to King Arthur's hall. He says, any knight in this hall can take a swing at me, but he must come to my hall in a year's time and receive my blow. So Gawain gets up, chops the Green Knight's head off. Great, act of knightly prowess. The Green King tucks his head under his arm and rides away. And of course, now Gawain, because keeping promises, right, has to ride to the Green King's hall. And he already knows, like, I can't do anything to this guy. I'm hopeless against this guy. But he goes to the Green King's hall and he's welcomed. Um, but then while he's there, the Green King's lady attempts to seduce him. And he resists her and he resists her and he resists her because he is a virtue, but he
mhm,
does steal a kiss.
mhm,
So then comes time for him to receive the Green Knight's blow. The Green Knight takes out his axe, takes a mighty swing, nicks Gawain in the neck. And that nick was for the kiss.
mm,
The implication, of course, being that if he had given in to the seduction and his head would have been chopped off, and he would have been
mhm.
dead. His knightly prowess means nothing. He is saved by his virtue.
And so there you get the ordinary man facing the magical monster
Yeah, exactly.
situation.
Exactly. This is what fairy tales are like. So fantasy is a very different. Now You can, I mean, both get shelved in the same shelf in the
Yeah, but you're
bookstore,
right, they
right?
shouldn't. Fairy tales are far more relentless and rigorous in their applications of, well, as Tolkien would say, the laws of fairy. Mark, I need to have you back on the channel to do a much longer, deeper dive on this. I've been reading Martin Shaw, and all he does is talk myth and fairy tales. And there's like a Russian fairy tale that comes to my mind, and we're totally out of time to now talk about it. Where
Okay.
can folk find you online to get a copy of The Withered King, either to pre-order or to learn more about you?
Well, I did just put a copy of in the book fair because I found that link, and you can find everything from gmbaker.net, and that will
Fantastic.
find everything of me.
Wonderful. Mark, thank you so much for jumping onto the live stream and kicking off our, yes, Dragons and Jedi segment and mentioning the phrase moral absolutes,
Mhm.
which is a Jedi thing, or not, as the case may be. Whatever. Thanks again.